Hi, I felt called to do a little tarot reading, so I'm just going to dive in. We'll talk about things as they come. Some of this energy, to start with, is pretty heavy. This is, in fact, why I wanted to do this reading in the first place. We have, like, the Nine of Swords, the Five of Pentacles, and the vibes are a little harsh. They're a little intense. I mean, this is a timeless reading. It's a collective reading, so whenever you find it, you find it. But, like, as of me doing it, things are a little bit bleak. And I don't want to, like, gaslight us. Like, there is reason to be concerned. There is reason to have anxiety. You know, this person up at night, unable to fall asleep, doesn't need to just have a better attitude, in my opinion. There is a lot of injustice. We pulled justice, so we'll get to that. But there is this kind of sense of, like, the Five of Pentacles to me is like being on the other side of the glass. So it's like kind of seeing everyone like in a warm space, like hanging out, and like you didn't get the invite to, you know, be a part of the belonging. You didn't get the invite to be a part of like the warmth and the joy and the merriment. So it's kind of like, I would say the Five of Pentacles is a little bit of an existential pain almost. So there is this sense that the things maybe keeping us up at night are like not, I would say, like not things we've made up in our mind. And I think that's just like kind of maybe, at least for me, an important place to start is like, you know, people are always saying that you need to like create a better narrative and you need to like be aware of the story you're telling yourself and blah, blah, blah. But with these two cards, I'm kind of getting the feeling of like, before we can like rewrite the narrative of the story we're telling ourselves, I think we just have to be real and honest that there has been a recurring pattern of being excluded or overlooked or kind of abandoned in some sense. That like there have been real circumstances that have precipitated perhaps a certain narrative that you may have adopted that has led to, let's call it, the devil, right? So I am here interpreting the devil as like kind of being related to these chains of like being kind of stuck in that loop of like, okay, I try things, but I always get the same result, which is maybe nothing, or is maybe it feels like nothing changes no matter what efforts I put forward. That's what I'm getting. So we start here because it's like, okay, well, how are we going to change this up? You know, like if it isn't just a matter of willpower or rewriting the narrative, and if there are genuine systemic factors that are keeping us where we are, like how do we transcend that, you know? And we can transcend that. Let's talk about transcending the places in which we feel stuck. We got this Two of Swords. I would say this is kind of that like stuck feeling. Also with her having the blindfold, I think it's like not seeing the path forward. This card is often related to indecision, but I kind of want to emphasize that the indecision is perhaps rooted in some of this past experience that we may have had, you know, where it's like all of our efforts ultimately have just sort of, yeah, I just keep getting the idea of this loop, and I'm not like, there's no cards that indicate that, but I just feel that, yeah, basically maybe where we're at is this kind of sticky feeling, and also kind of that like, because some of these anxiety inducing narratives that are rooted in like past trauma, like real lived experiences that helped form that narrative. I'm channeling, so I don't know what I'm saying. It's it's like we have to be, I think, a little bit clever about how we're going to move out of it. Especially with the devil, you know, it seems like we got this crow, this face your fear thing. And crows are known for being pretty smart. So I feel like that is just kind of a message I'm receiving, is that there isn't necessarily a correct answer for how to move forward. There maybe is not a logical answer in terms of like how to move forward. I am hesitant to suggest that we just need to change our narrative. I'm hesitant to say that it's just a matter of us having a positive attitude and having a positive belief and believing in the end and living in the end. Like, I think that is a little bit reductive of maybe like some of the somatic ways that this sort of like abandonment wounds, or this sort of like, you know, this stuff that's like making it hard to move forward and that is keeping us in anxiety and that is keeping us chained. It's like, you know, if you really were trapped by like the actual devil, I mean, the devil has a lot of resources, right? I mean, if you look at like the systems in which we live, they have a lot of power, and there is a lot of like, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I'm wary of us as individuals feeling like we have to like continue to be personally responsible for things that are actually kind of out of our control. However, we don't want to feel powerless, right? So there has to just be a new way forward. This facing your fear thing is... I don't know what I just said, so we're just going to keep going. I'm really drawn to the fact that there's this like prism thing. And I do have Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album on my record player, and it has kind of like that same little triangle thing with like the light and like going through the prism. And so yes, crows are very smart, they're very clever. I feel like that is part of the message, is that we have to be kind of like like almost leaning into curiosity and leaning into experimentation and leaning into learning as part of our path forward. And then the other piece of this is that it feels like, I guess what I want to say with this is like, we're maybe needing to filter some of what we're experiencing to be able to see it, to see like the full dimension of it. So, and then also like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon makes me think of Wizard of Oz. It's like the Wizard of Oz was not like a straightforward journey. You know, it was not, in fact, it was very convoluted almost. Like, she ends up back where she was at the beginning, but it's because of the whole like yellow brick road, zigzaggy, kind of all over the place experience that she was able to end up in the same place, a changed person. And, you know, all she really needed to do to get back the whole time was just say like, there's no place like home, and like tap their ruby slippers or whatever. So I guess there's like that element of like, she always had the power to go to the destination from the very beginning, but it was like, again, the whole point of the journey itself was what she needed more than to arrive at the destination. So that's something I'm picking up with this Face Your Fear card, is like, I guess the fear is, I mean, to me, the fear is like, what's the point of doing anything? You know, like, I I think with this, it's like, I talked about like the loops, or like the feeling stuck, or the feeling like abandoned, or feeling like you're always going to be shut out, or feeling like you can't see the path forward. So I feel like here, the facing the fear is just the kind of like doing the actions, being on the path, being on the journey is literally the point. Like, you, in a way, it might be helpful, I think, for me anyway, to say I'm not going anywhere. Eight of Pentacles, I'm just doing the work, you know, like, I think that there's really like a chop wood, carry water aspect to this. And there's also that thing of like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So there is, I think, this message of like, even if you have this history of like doing things and nothing ever works out, it's kind of like, just keep doing things. Okay, another thing is like, I watched Angel, the Buffy spinoff, and there was like this one scene where like one of the characters was like, what would you do if I told you that there was like, that the apocalypse was coming and it was inevitable, and no matter what you did, there was nothing you could possibly do to stop it, and all of humanity was doomed. And they were like at a I think like a charity kind of thing for like unhoused people, and she was carrying boxes, and she's like, well, just, I would say, hand me the box. So I mean, I didn't tell that story that well, but the point is, I feel like part of the message I'm receiving is like, past fear and trauma may be very valid and very real. You don't have to like gaslight yourself into thinking you just need a better attitude. There are real systemic things occurring that are making us trapped in certain ways that are kind of like beyond our control. And that is a real factor. But nonetheless, even so, even though we can't see the way forward, and even though we are kind of trapped in this sort of hell in a way, the antidote, if there is any, is just to keep doing it, to keep showing up, to keep doing everything you've been doing, even though you, in a way, it's like, there's a part of us that might say like, why bother? But it's like, I think through doing that, in that process, I think that things are alchemized, and alchemy is a big part of what this card is about, this destiny path. This card, I mean, maybe I'll even read a little bit from it. It says, it's called the Destiny Path. And it says, the symbol of the circles and the triangle is known as the Philosopher's Stone, the symbol of transmutation and inner enlightenment. And the alchemical process of turning lead into gold through a deep cooking and heating process is representative of the psyche transforming into its highest potential, leading to enlightenment and the utter fulfillment of one's purpose in the physical realm. So, King Snake is the ultimate transmuter. He is non-venomous, yet can eat poisonous snakes, often bigger than himself. This teaches about your ability to transmute a toxic situation into your greatest asset. The bees in this image represent the gifts you have within that are of the utmost service to humanity. Bees are a gift to humanity as they pollinate about 80% of the crops we eat. Your purpose is also a gift of service to humanity. And then there's the all-seeing eye guarding and guiding you. There is a force that created you that has been facilitating your growth this entire time. And then Omnia Unis Est translates to all is one, everything is connected. There is a mystery beyond your comprehension, aligning you with the moment you were born to share. Every moment you've encountered was meant to bring you exactly where you are now. So basically, I'm getting that as like a huge piece of this is like, the path forward is just taking each step without having any idea where any of it is leading. We have the Hermit, and I am not actually receiving the Hermit in this case as like being alone. So literally, I think like what I'm really drawn to here right now is like the lantern aspect of it. So it's kind of like the inner compass thing. It's like, I think that a lot of this energy feels very forward facing to me, and it feels kind of like public almost. And it feels like a lot of the point of the reading is just to put yourself out there and do the stuff and carry the box and like chop the wood and carry the water and do it without knowing how any of it is adding up or why any of it matters, especially or even if you have experienced a lot of failure and setbacks and like lack of forward momentum. But here the lantern to me is just saying like, your conscious mind doesn't know what it's doing, but there is a part of you that does know what it's doing. And so it's like, I think it's like kind of trusting that there is this like inner light leading you where you're going. And so even though everything around you is like pitch black, you are the light itself. Like you are, so like even if you can't see that far ahead, you can always just see the next step, and like that's enough. And so it's kind of like relying on your intuition or relying on, like, this is like me speaking for myself, but like sometimes I have a hard time trusting myself, and I do turn to tarot sometimes, honestly, but like I'm often looking for answers outside of myself, and I'm like trying to retrain myself to ask myself those questions. So an exercise I learned was like just kind of to stop and pause and be like, heart, what do you want me to do? And also, our heart is allowed to change its mind, you know? Like, I've had instances where my heart told me one thing, and then, like, 2 hours later, I found myself just instinctively doing the exact opposite. And I think that that's just kind of something I'm picking up with the Hermit, is, like, we can trust ourselves to answer questions for ourselves, to make the choices we need to make. Like, there is just this thing, and it's like, so much of this to me is about turning off your mind and just like not letting, and just kind of letting like these unconscious forces within you, which are to me represented by this lantern, pull you forward. Okay, enough said on that. All right, so basically what comes next is very positive. We do have this Six of Pentacles. So this is like kind of about like a give and take energy. So I would say that this is like, there will be, I think, reciprocal energy along the way. I think that this card is saying to me that we can trust. I mean, in the Rider-Waite tarot deck, like this card is like a little bit weird because it's like this rich guy is like giving crumbs to people, and like obviously we don't want to be like just accepting crumbs. But I mean, if you look at like, this is like Libra energy, and I also pulled Justice, which has like those same scales. So like there is kind of like this echo here. And so the Six of Pentacles paired with Justice, I feel like there's this element of like, we can trust like not only ourselves, but trust that we are going to meet allies along the way, and we are going to receive what we need. I'm kind of like, to get a little bit biblical here, reminded of like the Israelites are in the wilderness, and like that manna falls from the sky, and it's like exactly enough. It's exactly what they needed to like eat or sustain themselves like for their journey ahead. And so that's like something I feel like is kind of coming through, is that as we move forward, I think we can trust that we will have enough, and that we will be met where we're at with like what we need when the time comes. So like, I guess an example of that would be like, if you're starting a business, it's kind of like, you know, the client, it's kind of like, I'm also getting Field of Dreams, like build it and they will come. But like, I'm getting, you know, if you're starting a business, it's like, you'll be able to meet yourself at every level you're at, you know? So it's like, you're going to just start it. You're going to soft launch it. And then, you know, maybe get some initial interest. And so then you're going to like have enough resources to kind of do the next step. And then you're going to have enough so it's like, I feel like a piece of this, especially with the Six of Pentacles, is it's like, it's not necessarily that like everything is immediate, and it's like not like everything is it just feels kind of like this like gradual process of like, as you grow, your circumstances will grow and things will change, and it feels like they're just gonna happen kind of like gradually. And so you might not even notice it, but like it is happening, like the change, like basically the justice is like, we're not going to be stuck in this devil energy. You know, we are breaking free from this, but like the process of breaking free from it is a gradual one based on continually showing up over a period of time, and of like cultivating a sense of faith. And so on that note, a faith in like in the process. So on that note, I do feel like there is ultimately a breakthrough moment where maybe things really do pick up speed with this Eight of Wands. And prayers are answered. This is represented by the buffalo. So buffalo is like definitely a symbol of abundance, especially like, I guess in indigenous cultures, it's like the buffalo, like one buffalo kind of provided everything everyone needed for like a while. Like the coat was like clothes, the meat like fed everyone. So it's like kind of like, I think buffalo was like revered and worshipped because it's like buffalo, like one buffalo gave so much. So I feel like that's something with the prayers answered. It's like maybe what we're looking for is kind of some sense of like everlasting abundance. And it almost feels like that does kind of arrive. And especially like the Lovers. I love kind of ending on the Lovers, because that feels like, yeah, there is just this breakthrough moment where we realize we're no longer here. I mean, because these cards also echo one another intentionally, but it's like these are like chains of like codependency, and this is like kind of, I would say, representing more of this like freedom and this like kind of enlightenment. So this is sort of like, we do ultimately arrive at this place where there is like, I think a clicking, like something clicks and like something really like snaps into place, and like I feel like kind of things flood in, or they're just like, with the buffalo prayers answered, it's kind of like, even if like where we started was kind of like, you know, oh, I'm sorry, don't mean to hold up the devil. Whoops. Six of Pentacles, justice. Like, as I was saying, like, I feel like the journey kind of starts out being like very gradual process where like all needs are met, but it like is kind of just you know, very like brick by brick by brick. But then it's like you wake up one day and like all the bricks have been laid and like the foundation is strong, and it's sort of like we realize like we're not where we used to be. We're in this new place. I mean, the Lovers represents choice. It also represents Gemini. It can represent true love. If this were about like a relationship, I mean, I'm not saying that this reading is about a relationship, but like these are general readings and I'm just reading energy. So like another example could be like, if you get into a new relationship, you might be unlearning past trauma, codependency, and learning how to be in a healthy relationship of like give and take. And then it's like kind of like the process is one of developing trust over a period of time and like showing up consistently and doing the work of being in the healthy relationship. And then eventually you kind of like get to a place where you're like in a groove with one another, and like realize that you are each other's prayer answered, and like maybe this could be kind of like the, you know, like true love sort of scenario. So yeah, these are general, it's just energy. I think what I'm basically trying to say is like, I think we ultimately, through the process of like showing up in spite of past trauma, in spite of our doubts, in spite of our fears, kind of facing our fears, learning how to alchemize them and see things differently, we end up in this place of like abundance and prayers answered and love and forward momentum and abundant, like just kind of like being in this new landscape, being in this new mindset where like things maybe don't feel so restricted, or they don't feel so like heavy anymore, you know? So I guess in like, to make it about capitalism, it's like maybe finding a way to make a life for yourself that makes sense with you within, and like maybe giving gifts back to your community too with the lovers, you know? So it's sort of like finding a new path, like you're charting your own course is basically the idea of this reading. And because it's like charting your own course, I think that's also why this hermit was important, because like part of the journey is like, you know, trusting your own step-by-step guidance throughout, and kind of like being okay not knowing where you're going, because you're not really even meant to see the path forward. You're just kind of meant to like feel your way through that darkness into essentially the light, which is all this stuff. Okay, so I think that's good. I mean, that resonates with me. I think that's what I needed to hear. So if no one else benefits, at least I did. All right, great. All right, love you. Bye.